Right, let's get some economic analysis, shall we, with Ed Conway, who is by his big screen. Ed, what did you make of that budget?
Yeah, I mean, Beth was talking about the scorecard. So the scorecard is kind of where we get the rundown of all of the different numbers about how much these measures cost. I'm just looking at it here on my little screen as opposed to the big screen. And it's not that big. I think that's the main takeaway from this. The national insurance contributions is basically about £10 billion. But when you look at the rest of the stuff, so you've got the child benefit and a few other bits and pieces, non-DOMs as well, it kind of adds up to a giveaway of about £6 billion a year, which is small compared with some of the previous giveaways we've had. It's small compared by memory with what we had in the autumn statement. So this is a smaller event than the autumn statement in terms of its impact on households around the country. Like I say, I'm kind of going through these numbers now, and we'll bring you that kind of on the screen in a second. I'm going to stick this laptop down here and just show you the main kind of figures that we've got so far, because we did obviously get those updates to how the economy is doing within this budget. So we can update this chart. Remember, what this chart is showing you what the forecast was for growth last time around. We can now show you what the forecast is this time around, OK? So look at the red bars. That's the latest numbers we just got through from the Office of Budget Responsibility. So slight upgrades for the growth forecast. Actually a pretty decent upgrade there in 2025 and then decent upgrade in 2026. I'm going to be quite interested to see how much of that is down to population growth. I think quite a bit of that is down to population growth, because basically they've upgraded their forecast for the size of the population because of immigration. So those bars are a lot higher, partly I think because of that rather than because the economy is going gangbusters right now. Well, it's not gangbusters, frankly, by any stretch. Borrowing as well, I'll just skip through this pretty quickly. Borrowing a little bit lower in the first year, but slightly higher in the following years, OK? So borrowing more or less unchanged, and that goes along with this point that this wasn't a massive shift in terms of the big numbers for the UK economy. And so too is the story with net debt. So this is the total national debt. OK, and you'll remember we talk about this quite a lot because those fiscal rules are dependent on this. And again, look at those red bars. This is the latest numbers we got through. Basically more or less the same. The Chancellor is saying that he wants to be prudent here, but have a look at this. Actually, in the final year of the forecast, OK, so 2028-29, you've got slightly higher national debt than we did before, net debt. So the UK is going to be more indebted as a result of what we've just seen than it was before. And final thing to note, OK, and like I say, we'll have much more on this state of the tax burden, what's actually going on beneath the surface, how much he was playing with when it comes to headroom. But he mentioned, you know, he's talking about his headroom. Everyone's going on about headroom. As you know, I find it a little bit boring, but nonetheless, that's what determines, he says, whether he's going to have money to spend in the future. He mentioned that he's got headroom. It's not that much headroom. This is the headroom he's got left compared with last time around, 8.9 billion. So not that much. But like I say, Sophie, we'll have more on this in the coming hours.
Ed, can I ask you something? You know how, with the budget, it feels like it was perhaps a smaller event than we were anticipating. Do you think that's because politically they're trying to, say something back to have a better pre-election package? Or do you think it's just because the economic situation is so bad, he is boxed in, that he literally cannot offer any more?
I mean, listen, you've got these fiscal rules, and that's basically your kind of constraint against how much, whether you're going to break this fiscal rule. And frankly, a lot of these fiscal rules, it's quite easy to fiddle them. OK, so to be honest with you, I think if they had wanted to do more of a giveaway, they could have found a way to do it. You kind of change your spending assumptions for the final year of the forecast horizon. So to me, you're more of a political expert than I am, but to me, this didn't feel like a pre-election budget at all. It felt really, like I say, it was small. And looking at those numbers I was, going through on the scorecard, this is not a big moment fiscally. Yes, 2p on national insurance is a lot of money compared with previous kind of tax cuts, but take the whole thing, it's sum total, and it's not a massive shift in government policy. It doesn't massively shift the dial in terms of the nature and shape of the economy. It does reduce taxes, but like I say, that's taxes, the national insurance taxes. The question, and we'll show you the chart in a moment when we have it, the question is what's actually happening to the tax burden. And my strong assumption is it's basically going to look pretty similar to what we had last time around, which is taxes as a percent of GDP still really high. You can't shift that very easily. And so, frankly, there's only so much you can do as a Chancellor at this point. But I would have thought if he wanted to do more, then he could have. Because looking at that scorecard, It's quite thin, to be honest with you. And I mean, you know, that's a first glance at it. So who knows, there might be some stuff underneath the surface that really kind of shows this is a really dynamic, economy-changing moment. But to be honest with you, looking at that doesn't look like it at the surface.